Namaste, all my dear students. Myself, Dr. Hemant Vyas, Associate Professor and Head of Department of Surgery, Faculty of Homeopathic Science, Jyoti Vidyapith Women's University, Jaipur. In today's session, we are going to discuss about anatomy and physiology of the ear. And our basic preference will be on the applied part of anatomy and physiology of the ear so that we can understand the terminologies which we are going to discuss in the sessions of the ear, nose and throat. So first slide discuss about anatomy of the ear. So as far as the complete ear is concerned, it is divided into three parts: outer ear, middle ear and inner ear. Outer ear is sometimes also called as external ear. So external ear has three parts again. First is the pinna, which is also called as ear auricle. The next part in the external ear is external auditory canal, and third part is the tympanic membrane. So let's study. First we are going to discuss about auricle or pinna. The pinna is formed by yellow elastic cartilage which is covered by skin. The skin and the perichondrium are intimately adherent to each other. The cartilage is absent in the ear lobule. The gap between the tragus and the helix is called the incisura terminalis. This, the end oral incision for the operation of the ear, is made through this hiatus without incising the cartilage of the pinna. So this was the applied part of the auricle or pinna. Now we are going to discuss about external auditory canal. So external auditory canal, so let's study its length. It is approximately 2.5 centimeter in length and it extends from the bottom of the concha to the eardrum. The outer one third is cartilaginous and the skin is immediately adherent to the cartilage. Hence, the furuncle in this area are very much painful. The skin has hair follicles and ceruminous glands which secrete wax. The inner two-third portion of the canal is bony and the skin is thin as it lacks sebaceous and ceruminous glands. Now let's study the shape. The narrowest part, isthmus, is situated 5 mm lateral to the eardrum and the canal is S-shaped. It is directed first inwards, then upwards and then forwards. Then it is carried inward, backward and upward, and finally it passes inward, forward and downwards. So this shape makes it necessary to pull the pinna upward and backward while examining the ear in adults. In children, the canal is shorter, straighter and without the hairs. Thus, the eardrum often can be directly examined without any ear speculum. Now, tympanic membrane or eardrum. So first we will discuss about the size, shape and position. The eardrum measures, also called as tympanic membrane. The eardrum measures approximately 10 mm in vertical diameter and 8 mm in horizontal diameter. It is oval in shape. The drum is placed obliquely at an angle of 55 degrees with the floor at the inner end of the external auditory canal and faces downwards, forwards and outwards. Thus the floor and anterior wall of external ear canal are longer than the roof and posterior wall. So the point which is important is the angle is of 55 degree. Then layers, there are three layers: outer epithelial layer, middle fibrous layer, and inner is mucosal layers. Now the tympanic membrane has two parts: pars tensa and pars flaccida. Pars tensa is larger part and is thickened peripherally into the fibrocartilaginous annulus, which fits into the tympanic sulcus. The sulcus is grooved to receive the annulus. Pars flaccida is devoid of fibrous layer and the annulus, and it fits into the notch of Ravinus. Part Pars tensa shows the vertical handle of Malus, which is yellowish in color. The handle passes downwards and backwards from the short process of umbo at the center of drum. The light reflex is conical reflection of light which extends downwards and forwards from the umbo to the anterior inferior quadrant of the eardrum. Now let's move further. We are going to discuss about middle ear cleft. So it comprises of three parts: middle ear itself, Eustachian tubes, and mastoid ear cells. So first we are going to discuss about Eustachian tubes. Eustachian tubes are 3.75 centimeters long in adult and is bony at the posterior one-third and cartilaginous at the anterior two-third of the length. They connect the tympanic cavity with the nasopharynx. Means they connect the middle ear with the nasopharynx. They are closed at rest. They open it during yawning and swallowing. In infant, the tube is shorter, wider, and more horizontal and opens at a lower level. That's why the chances of infection are more in the children's. Means the infection can easily travel from nose or pharynx to the ear, middle ear, as the eustachian tubes are shorter, wider, and straighter. Now, tympanic cavity. The tympanum lies between the external ear and the inner ear and is shaped like a biconcave disc. The vertical and anteroposterior diameter are 15 mm, while the transverse diameter is 6 mm at the upper part, 2 mm at the center, and 4 mm at the lower parts. Let's move further. Inner ear, which is also called as labyrinth. It has three parts: cochlea, vestibule, and vestibulocochlear nerve. So vestibule has again three parts: utricle, saccule, and semicircular canals. Whereas vestibulocochlear nerve is the cranial nerve which is related to central nervous system. So in the diagram we can see that there are two parts of inner ear which is called as labyrinth, the bony labyrinth and the membranous labyrinth. Now, as far as the function of inner ear is concerned, the cochlea carries out the function of hearing, whereas vestibule carries out the function of balance, hearing, which is a function of cochlea. The sound wave travels up basilar membrane. The pitch, that means the frequency, determines place of maximum displacement. The hair cells of organ of Corti on basilar membrane transforms movement into electrical impulses and which is further directed towards cochlear nerve, which reaches the cerebral cortex where it is recognized. Thank you so much.